Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the restoration of a first on this channel, a Tandberg Portable. This one was sent to me by a viewer who sent me 4 radios from Norway. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. And I really like this little guy because that is not a plastic coating you're seeing there. That's actually wood. And it really is in good condition. At least the wooden part is in very, very good condition. I have no idea what condition the radio's in. I haven't switched it on yet. I'm looking forward to finding out what it is it needs, if it's typical, if it's very similar to the German sets I've done. Maybe all we need is to change a few caps. I have no idea. And as far as features are concerned, this is fairly typical for that era. We've got treble and bass controls, volume control. We've got an on-off switch, long wave, medium wave. There's an antenna switch, which switches for the external antenna for long wave and medium wave. There is short wave, FM, AFC, and then we've got the tuning controls for the AM bands and the FM. On the side, we've got these sockets. The top one is a DIN socket that allows us to connect an external source and also take the audio out into a tape recorder. We've got the external power, which is 12 volts, and I believe it's reverse polarity. So the outside of the socket would be negative and the inside would be positive. Then there's an earphone socket and an external speaker socket, also a DIN socket in that case. And we've got the external antenna connector as well. On the underside, nothing unusual. The battery case, and we've got the battery cover on there, which is always very, very useful. There is a connector for a car radio, similar to some of those German sets that I've done. I think this is a proprietary connector, so it's different to the other ones I've seen. And I think this thing's pretty easy to open. You just take out those 2 screws holding the handle on, because I'm going to dismantle this before I switch it on. I don't know what the inside looks like, and I'm a little bit afraid to power it up and blow something up. As I said, I have no idea what condition this is in, so I don't want to risk it. So with the handle off, those 2 side plates just slip out on both sides. And then it's just a question of lifting the 2 panels. I believe this is how it works. Just pull it out. Oh, that foam, it seems to be in good condition, a little bit dirty. What is that? There's a shield there, and there seems to be a post-it underneath. That also looks like it's been extended. We'll see. What's the other side look like? The other side, I expect to see a speaker. Whoa, that is some speaker for a little radio like this. That's a very, very big speaker. Is this a sign of things to come? Maybe the sound will be astounding on this thing. I think that's probably the biggest speaker I've seen on one of these little sets. Battery compartment is clean. There's been no leakage. But before I carry on, I want to thank the sponsors of this video, PCBWay. You'll find them at PCBWay.com. And they're the people I go to for all the PCBs that I use in my projects. But of course, they don't just do PCBs. They also do 3D printing, which I've used before to great success. They do CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication, injection molding, and a host of other services that'll take your project right from the beginning all the way to a fully assembled project, if that's what you desire. If you look at the list of products and capabilities, they've got a huge array of services. I'm sure you'll find something for your needs. And the 11th anniversary activities have started. Another opportunity for you to win some prizes and make your experience with them even more fun. And look at that. That speaker is immaculate. Really, really nice. And big. Let's hope the sound matches. I think someone's been in here. That is quite a board. They've got this all on one PC board. And I presume, yeah, I know I'm going to have to remove the speaker to get access to it from the front. But it looks fairly neat. Let me remove the top cover. We'll just take the knobs off. I think it's as simple as that. There's quite a bit of dirt on here, so it will require a fair amount of cleaning. What's the antenna like? It's intact. Brilliant. That's always great, because getting antennas for these things can be a little bit of a chore. So that antenna is in perfect condition. As I said, quite a bit of cleaning required. But let's see what it's like underneath. There's nothing broken here. And the dial string's in place, both on the AM and the FM. Switches seem to be working. They do need a bit of cleaning, but that's not an issue. And what about the treble and the bass and the volume? Everything seems to be okay. I believe this volume control, if you push it down, it actually switches on the dial lamp. So we'll see how that works when we switch it on. And that's the next thing I'm going to do, power it up. I'll set 12 volts on the bench supply. Let me put a little current limit here just in case we have a problem. Plug it in. No, this thing is reverse polarity, remember? The outer is positive. See that? Inner is negative. Let's get that right. The outer side is positive. That's what they mean on that symbol over there. Connect it up, put it on FM, give it a bit of antenna and a bit of volume. And let's hit it.
Temos 90
Whoa!
integral taxas mínimas do país.
We've got politicians raving. So this is all normal.
Fiscal séria.
Whoa, that is amazing. That sounds bloody brilliant. I wonder what the AM bands sound like. Let me connect the mini whip and see what we get. So, mini whip selected. I'm just going to connect the mini whip to the antenna there and to the chassis as ground. We'll choose long wave. I put in the external antenna selector because we're going to use the external antenna for long wave and medium wave. And let's see what we get. This is amazing. It's the middle of the day. Medium wave. This is Canary Islands.
Pero ninguno de ellos ha sido el tutor de Alejandro ni mantiene correspondencia.
Esto en Nueva York.
Whoa!
El triunfo de Donald Trump ha hecho mucha.
This is amazing. Let's try shortwave. Is that shortwave? Yeah, that's shortwave. Oh, there is something that I read. This thing here, the FM tuning, when on shortwave, it acts as a fine tuning. So let's see. It's doing something. Yeah. This thing is sounding absolutely great. The speaker sounds great and reception seems to be as good as, if not better than some of the others that I've restored, and I haven't done anything to it yet. But nevertheless, let's have a look. I'm going to remove the speaker. We'll look inside and see what the capacitors look like. There is something I've noticed, and maybe you have too. Let me show you what I mean. You see those caps? Those look a hell of a lot like Panasonic FC capacitors to me, and those capacitors are new. I'm just trying to look on the inside to see if the others are as well, and I think I see Panasonic FC caps. Someone has recapped this and it wasn't me. I told you someone had been in here because I noticed the screws were different. There are all sorts of different screws on here and different washers, but that is a job already done. That's what I would be doing, is replacing all the electrolytic capacitors. And the way this thing sounds, it does sound like someone's been in here before. And the only way to find out is by removing the speaker, and we'll get access to the boards on the back. We'll be able to see all the components and we'll see what it is they have changed. Let me get that done and show you what we find. Well, as expected, this thing has had some work. We can see the new caps in there. They're all good quality caps. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. That is all the electrolytics on that little part of the board. They're all Panasonic FCs. Very good quality caps for this type of radio. There's another one there, another Panasonic. That one is not a Panasonic, but it's also been replaced. And I don't see anything else that has been tampered with in here. I did expect to see things a little bit different, considering this is a Norwegian radio and I'm used to the German ones. And indeed, there are a few differences here. I mean, the IF transformers look different. Never seen these sort of gold colored ones before. But everything else, I guess, is just standard. We've got little trimmer capacitors here, very similar to the ones I worked on before. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that is too unusual in this radio. There is something I've noticed, which was a little bit of a surprise, and that is actually the speaker. The speaker has been changed. And the reason I know it's been changed is because it doesn't really fit on the holes over there. They've actually made a couple of holes in the bottom here. And, well, they did replace it with a speaker that's made in Norway. This is a SEAS, S-E-A-S, which is Scandinavian, and it is Norwegian. So they replaced it with a Norwegian speaker, but it does look like the one they had before was different, and they replaced it for some reason. So my going on about the speaker, well, yep, it's a great speaker, and it does sound amazing, but it's not the original. I am not even sure whether the other one was a SEAS. I don't know what type of speakers, what brand of speakers these radios used. But considering that Tandberg and SEAS are both Norwegian, I would imagine it probably had a SEAS speaker in the first place. So what am I going to do here? Well, I think I'm just going to say thank you again and test it thoroughly. This thing does use a 455 kilohertz IF, which is very similar or similar to the American versions. Most of the German ones used 460. The FM IF is 10.7 as well. That's pretty standard. And it has a very interesting tuning mechanism. Let me show you what I mean. Remember I told you this thing had a fine tuning. On shortwave, you've got the normal tuning there. That alters the main tuning capacitor. But it's also got a fine tuning function, which is, let me get this out. If you're on shortwave and you adjust the FM tuning, this thing has got, this is amazing. This is really amazing. Let me try and get a close-up on this. I think I'm right to assume that this main spindle, that is turning the tuning condenser inside. But then this thing, this little bar that comes down here, this thing has got like a lever, and it's, how do I describe this? It follows a track around here. If you watch that carefully, you'll see it's sort of moving out in that direction. And it hits the end, and then as I turn the other way, it's moving in. It's moving inside a spiral cavity curve in there, right? And what it's doing is it's actually levering this thing like that and like that. And what I think this has, it's got it probably activates sort of a plunger in a ferrite rod or something. I can't really see it in there. I have tried to look in there, but I think that is pushing up and down a plunger, which will be the core of some sort of ferrite, which is in parallel with the oscillator circuit's tank circuit. And that'll be adjusting the frequency ever so slightly when you adjust, and I'm talking about the frequency of the shortwave oscillator when you turn the FM tuning. So you'll set the general position that you want with the main tuning dial, and then you'll be able to go left and right along here. So if you really want to be good about it, you'd put this about halfway, the FM halfway, get your tuning, and then that'll give you some leeway left and right. That's how I think that works. And if we look at the schematic, it does give us a hint as to the function of that thing. You see, I do have a full schematic for this, but it is in Norwegian, and yeah, not easy for me to translate that, because this particular, if I try and copy paste it to translate it, I've got to unlock this, and this particular service manual is actually a locked PDF. But never mind, I'm not going to do these adjustments because I really don't believe they're necessary. But let me show you what I mean by the tuning. You see, when we go to, this is the FM front end, and we've got this coil over here, which is sort of linked down here. It's a bit strange. It's linked and it goes across here. See that FM and delta S? Is that delta? Delta shortwave maybe? I'm not sure. And it comes to here. And then we've got this symbol, and this is showing some sort of, probably some sort of coil that's moving up and down. And this over here is, in fact, I believe in the, yeah, it is, it's on the, in the oscillator section. So this would be that fine-tuning adjustment over here. I'm not sure. I think maybe what that spindle on the FM is doing is actually not a capacitor tuner. Let me see, where is, I'm not really sure how that works. I'd have to go and read all these descriptions here, but I think that's how they've done it. They've linked the FM tuning with a dotted line. You see that? They've somehow linked it to the AM, probably the shortwave oscillator tuning, and that's how you get the fine-tuning function. So here's the full schematic, and it's very, very clear. They give us, I know this is a little bit dim, but they give us the values, the voltages for on FM and on AM bands. There it is. If I show you that, you can just see that on FM. I can't read what it says, but this was obviously a colored schematic. But they give us point M1, and this is indicated in the alignment instructions, and they give us voltages. So if you wanted to do a full repair, if you had to do a full repair, this would be very, very useful. And then of course they've also got the PC board with all the components marked out. They describe how to do the alignment, how to do the coupling using a wobulator, and they give us a diode, a detector probe schematic as well. There's the full FM alignment instructions, and again everything is in Norwegian, but if you follow the general rules, there is nothing too unusual here. They give you the component, the coils that you need to adjust for the different. This is for the IF. You set the dial to 90 megahertz, and your signal generator is pumping in 10.7 plus minus. If you use deviation, if you're using a wobulator, you'll deviate it by 200 kilohertz. They tell you where to connect it via 0.1 microfarad to M2. Remember I said those M's there indicate where you connect to. And a diode probe, and that would be figure 2, so you'd use that diode probe. It's very, very well described, and what you would see on the wobulator or on the scope is this kind of curve. They tell you exactly, this is amazing, they actually tell you what the value is, the signal amplitudes are coming in, and output impedance. They tell you where to set your vertical scale and your horizontal scale. This is unbelievable. It's all here. Then of course we've got the schematic, we've got all the component layouts and description. This is that spiral that I mentioned, and that wire seems to be going to the inside to that core that's being, I believe, pushed up and down. And what else? What else? What else? And of course there are instructions on how to do some of the adjustments. And then here we have the AM IF alignment, and this is where they have 455 kilohertz, which, as I said, a little bit unusual for European radios. Most of them were 460, 462, 457. I've seen all sorts of things. They were staying away from 455 because I believe there was some kind of patent on that in the States, if I remember correctly. But yeah, everything is described here. And again, they give us the curves that we should expect when you do the adjustments for that. Now, I'm not going to mess with this one little bit, because since I discovered this thing was working, I went a bit further. Last night I was playing with it, and the reception is exceptional. Absolutely amazing. This is one hell of a receiver. It performs incredibly well. So I don't want to tempt fate again. Sorry, I know it doesn't make for an incredibly interesting video, because I also like puzzles, and this one is definitely not so much a puzzle. It's going to be a cleaning job. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fit the speaker in properly. I need to put a few washers, or rather grommets, on there, because I do need to space this out a bit. I'm a little bit worried that this the metal cone might touch the back. Considering this is not the original speaker, I need to be very careful with that. I might even insulate it like a recent one I did. They'd insulated the cone, or the back of it, so that it wouldn't short circuit anything on the inside. I'm going to clean everything up, lubricate everything, I'm looking forward to seeing how that wood comes out on the front and the back panels, and then give you a quick demo. Okay, sometimes you get lucky. You just got to say thank you very much. I've started putting this thing together, cleaning things up bit by bit, but let me show you something. You remember this foam? Well, that's what we have now. I had problems finding foam this thick. I could only find 1 centimeter. So I used a felt, it's a filter. They sell this in A4 sheets, and I didn't know they did that. My logic is that this foam at the back was only being used as a filter, nothing else, because there's no sound coming out, and there's no other reason why this thing would be on here other than to filter out any dust and stuff from going in there. So that's going to stay there. But before that, we have this little shield over here. This shield had a post-it underneath, which is rather weird. And I realized it didn't need to do that because this underside is actually cardboard. So I just put in a plastic sheet on there just to protect it a bit more. And that should be good. So the felt goes on top of that, and then the back goes on, and that part of it is done. I also did a full cleanup of the top, and what that meant was cleaning this with water only, water and a bit of dish soap, because you've got to be careful with the labeling. You don't want to wipe them or wash them off. The knobs got cleaned with a toothbrush. This thing came out pretty well. There wasn't that much here anyway. I didn't want to sand this. I suppose I could have sort of tried to get a new brushing on here. But again, I had to be careful with the labeling. I don't want to wash that off. And it came out pretty well. Speaker again got put on. What I did here is I put it back. I realized I didn't need to insulate the back. It is away from all the electronics, so that's not an issue. And I've put in 4 new screws and washers. Make sure the screws are the same type. I really do not like seeing different types of screws. These are Phillips screws, and I think for the era they would have been just the normal screws. I couldn't find them, not in the type that I wanted. So I put in Phillips, but I put them all the same. And other than that, everything else has been cleaned, and I'm ready to clean up the front and back panels and complete this. Then we can test it. And that did not disappoint. The wood came out beautifully. All I did is I used a little bit of, it's sort of a furniture restorer. It's actually an oil, and I think this is just the right thing for this radio. It became slightly darker. I think it was a little bit faded, probably because it had been through some sort of cleaning process, and that sort of bleached the wood. Now we've got the color back. I love it. Absolutely love it. I mean, look at that. Try and get that look from something plastic. You just can't. Okay, testing time. I've got the mini whip connected to the external antenna there. I've selected external antenna, long wave. That is BBC4 on 198.
Major consent and now, for example, assisted dying would be regarded as falling squarely within rubric.
Now, we traditionally think of conscious.
Medium wave. This is Canary Islands.
Pues parecen bastante diferentes.
Claro.
No hemos comido y vamos a comer ahora. ¡Ánimo!
La gala de inauguración de la 18ª edición del festival. No queremos dejar de mencionar el premio Max de a Juan otorgado a Petra Martínez y a Juan Marcos.
A lot of these are Canary Islands, or most of them. Try shortwave. I've put the FM tune right in the center. There's a 0 there. So see, I'm trying to tune to that and it's difficult. But if I get it close, then I can fine tune like that.
Em 5.985, 7.205, 7.365, 9.500. Publié en Espagne par Galaxia Tandberg et qui a eu déjà en France 350 000 lecteurs. Donc allez prendre votre exemple.
This thing is amazing. This thing is absolutely amazing. Long wave, I'm receiving BBC4 like very few that I have here. Mind you, it depends on the weather conditions and so on, but this thing is really clear. Medium wave, I'm getting all the usual Canary Island stations as well as the one local station in Madeira. Shortwave, I mean the whole band is full, and this thing starts at, where does it start? It goes up to 18 megahertz and it starts at 6 megahertz, so it spans from 6 to 18. That's a hell of a long span, which is why you've got this fine-tuning function using the FM dial or FM tuner, and it works very, very well. Now with FM, the sound is astounding. Can't play music, obviously. The AFC works in reverse, so when it's up, AFC is on. When it's pushed in, AFC is off. Listen to this. So AFC works by default. It's difficult to describe to you what I'm hearing here, but this is, let's see, this is probably better than my favorite, what used to be my favorite, my Norwegian Transistor. This is probably better reception than that, and that's saying a lot, because I absolutely love my Nordmendes and the Saba even. This thing is better than the Saba. I'm really, really surprised. I want to thank my friend again in Norway for sending this radio together with the other three. I had never touched a Tandberg, and now I've got 2 Tandbergs and 2 others to play with, and I'll be doing those in short order. But I'm really, really chuffed that I got to work on this one and bring it back to life. There is one other little thing here. There are these little clips. I don't think you can see them. Little plastic clips. They clip onto this rail over here, and you would clip them in and set them to your favorite stations. So sort of station indicators. I haven't been able to clean those properly. I got to get the ultrasonic cleaner out, but those will go in here just randomly, I guess, when I've got them properly cleaned. But that is it. This is the radio. This is the result, and it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I do hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you've seen that sometimes these things go into the rubbish dump unnecessarily. I mean, this thing was working perfectly. The only thing I had to do was do some cosmetic work on there, and as far as function is concerned, it was immaculate. I did nothing electronically. Did I? No. I did absolutely nothing electronically to this radio. Nothing at all. No alignment, no change of capacitors, because somebody had already done that job. So this thing was really just a clean up and enjoy. And that's what I'm going to do. And I do hope you've enjoyed this. And if you have, click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon, PayPal. Links are in the description below. So once again, thanks for watching. Bye for now. And most of all, stay sane.